Hello everyone, welcome back to Longswitch JavaScript Academy. Today we are going to talk about an important concept in JavaScript, that is the naming conventions for variables. At first you might be thinking, or you might be getting confused, like what are the naming conventions while naming your variables, how to follow a particular approach or strategy to name your variables in JavaScript. It might get confusing for you, but it is really important to use a proper strategy to name your variables to make your code reusable, easy to understand, and error free. Next thing, you might be wondering why we have to emphasize on so much on like naming our variables. What purpose will it serve? Let me give you a quick example. Let's say you are reading a book, and within that book, and one story is going on, and if you feel that the names of the characters are continuously changing, they are not like serving the purpose of the character. They are not indicating the core nature of the character. Then it might be confusing for you, and you might lose the interest in like following the entire story in the book. The same happens with the programming languages, or the same happens with the programming in general. Keeping your variable names consistent, readable, and meaningful helps your code easy to understand for others. It also helps you to collaborate with other developers easily, because it makes your code very like conventional and easy to understand. Even forget about the others, even you yourself revisit your code after months or years. If you have given proper naming conventions to your variables, it will automatically make sense to you. It will automatically give you an idea why a particular variable is declared and what it does in the code. So I hope with this you are pretty much clear with the importance of having right naming conventions strategy implemented in your JavaScript programs. Now let's talk about some rules that we have to follow while naming our variables in the JavaScript. As you can see, we tried creating a quick summary of the general rules that we need to follow while naming our variables. So, as I had highlighted in the like introduction or overview segment of this episode, that when naming variables in JavaScript, it is important to follow certain rules to ensure code clarity, consistency, and adherence to the language specifications. I believe these terms are pretty much clear to you. If it is not clear, let me just give you brief idea about what does each one of them mean. Clarity means that your code should be easy to understand, easy to read for you and your other fellow developers in your team. It should be consistent across throughout the program. You won't be writing just a one function, two functions, or one or two blocks of code. You will be writing thousands of lines of code as part of your project. So it is always advisable, and it is a standard that you should maintain consistency across your throughout the program while naming your variables. And the third one is adherence to the language specifications. What does that mean? Every programming language has some set of like coding standards. So naming your variables and using proper convention is one of the specifications that JavaScript highlights, and that JavaScript like what I say supports. Now let's go through the general rules that we have to uh, take care of while naming our variables. The first rule is case sensitivity. What does that mean? In JavaScript, variable names are case sensitive, meaning that, for example, if you give your variable name company name in a camel case where C is smaller, and you declare another variable with the same name like company name but all in smaller case, both of them will be treated as different variables. They are not the same, even though their spelling is same, but their what I say, case is not same. That's why they are treated as the different variables. Let's understand this with an practical example. Here, I have my what I say, code editor. I'm just using VS Code for demoing these key concepts of JavaScript variables. You can also download this like VS Code editor. It is free and it is really helpful. So here, let's say I declare, for example, company name only. Give the name as long switch academy. Then I declare and I try to print it console.log. Company name, it will be company name. Now I just copy paste this entire thing and paste it here, and I really declare the same variable with a different case. Now, even this VS Code editor is also smart enough to highlight that cannot, you see, you are getting this error that you cannot redeclare the block stock scoped variable company name because the case is same and they are matching exactly. But if I change the case here, the JavaScript engine will treat it as a different variable, even though the names are same, but the case is different. And you know that you can see that the what I say, the warning from this editor is also went away. Now, now I try to print this. So this is important to understand that variable names or variables in what I say JavaScript are case sensitive. You have to be very careful about it. Now let's see the another rule. Allowed characters. Like while we name our variables, sometimes we use some special characters such as underscore or maybe some other special characters while naming them. So let's see what are the allowed characters while naming your variables. So variable names can consist of letters, yes, both in lowercase and uppercase, as I have given you the demo. Digits, we can also have numbers. We can also have underscores as a special character and dollar signs. These are the supported characters while naming your variables. Let's try to see this in action. Allowed characters. So let I will name my variable as company name dollar. Company name dollar. Long switch. I made a mistake. Long switch academy with dollar, and I console the clocks. So it is working fine. I'm not getting any errors or any warnings. Let's run this code for once. From here, you can run this code. You see, let me just change this console.log a bit. Just to see that. Let me run it. Okay, you see, I'm able to specify a dollar in my company name, and that's perfectly fine because that is an allowed character. Similarly, I will go here, and as we noticed here, dollar is allowed uppercase, lowercase are already allowed, that we have already seen. Digits and underscore. I go back to my code. Instead of company, I would like to use company name, company underscore name, just to see how it plays out here. And one more variant I will have is for the number. So here I will have is company name 1. See, the number is also supported. It is not giving me any errors, and print it out with digit. Let's try to run the code again. You see, with the digit is also, it is also printing with the underscore as well. It is getting printed here. Now let's, I close this terminal. Now try using some other special characters and see what happens, what we get. Let's copy this one. Now instead of 1, I just want to use plus. You see, the editor itself started giving me an error, because you see it is not treating this as a one of the part of the variable name. So in JavaScript, when you name your variables, you can use the combination of uppercase, lowercase characters, digits, underscores, dollars, dollar sign. But apart from these, you cannot use any other special character. I hope this point is also clear to you. Now the third rule is starting with letters, underscores or dollar signs. What does this mean? Variable names must begin with a letter, an underscore or a dollar sign. They cannot start with a digit. So when you name your variables, make sure that you use a camel case, which means it starts with a smaller letter, or it starts with a letter. Or you, in case you want to go with some other naming conventions, that such as you want to have underscore in front of all your variable names, then you can start with underscore or dollar signs in case. But the general rule is that you use camel case with your variable names. So but the key aspect here is either three of these approaches you can take while starting your variable names. Rest other options are not supported. Let's quickly check this in action. See, this is not supported. And starting convention, let let's say, let me copy this again. See, I am trying to start this with a digit. It is not working. And if I start with any other uh, special character also, it won't work. Like this, I'll get the error. Okay. So this is also, I believe, clear to you. When you start the name of your variables, it should be a character or a letter or an underscore or a dollar sign. Nothing apart from these supported elements are will work while you start the names for your variables. The next rule that we need to follow while naming our variables in JavaScript is avoid using reserved words or reserved keywords. You wonder what are reserved keywords in JavaScript and how to identify them. There are certain words such as if, else, while, function, that are part of JavaScript language. They have specific meanings in terms of JavaScript framework. We cannot use them as part of our names or as part of variable names in JavaScript. Let's see this in action. So I'll go back to my editor here. As you know, if is a keyword. We cannot use a word. Let's say let if is equal to text, or maybe long string academy. And let's try printing this one. Now here in the code editor itself, we are getting so many issues. You see, there are so many problems that we are getting because this if is a reserved word in JavaScript language. We cannot use this as part of our variable name. Therefore, this error is throwing. Let's try changing this to something else. Company name 2. You see, I change the variable to something meaningful and something which is supported. It works as expected. So there are some keywords that like JavaScript programming language has as it's part of framework. We cannot use them as part of our variable names. I hope this is clear to you. The next rule is meaningful and descriptive. It is more of what I say. We can consider this as a standard or a good practice that we have to follow. That your variable names should be meaningful and descriptive of the purpose for which they are getting created. This kind of meaningful behavior and nature of your variables make your code like easy to understand. Therefore, it improves the code readability and it makes it easier for others to like understand the purpose of your variable or your code in turn. So here, let's take an example. Here, while naming our variable for the company, I gave it name as company name. So even any other developer comes to this code and sees this, so he will identify that okay, this variable is supposed to store the name of the company, which means it enhances the readability of my code. But let's say if I have given it name as comp, then what does it mean? It can be a company name, it can be compensation, it can be component, it can have variable meanings depending on different use cases. So it becomes messy or it becomes unclear to other developers to understand the purpose of this code, and in case they want to make changes in for regarding to this variable, they will have less understanding or less idea about the actual purpose of this variable. Therefore, it is advisable that your code should be your variable name should be meaningful and descriptive about its purpose. The next rule is avoid single letter names except in specific cases. What does this mean? Sometimes we like or generally people have a habit of what I say, giving a shorter names to their variables, such as let me just show you an example. uh, Sometimes people give names like this. They try to keep it short. So this kind of smaller names you should avoid, or single letter names you should avoid in general practice. But there are use cases where you can have your variable names as a what I say single letter. Those use cases include like while you declare your variable within a loop. For example, in a for loop, let's say for let I equals to 0, where I less than 10 and I plus plus. In this kind of variable looping like constructs or looping code blocks, you can have your variables with a single letter in their name. This is kind of like what I say. Uh, Somewhat this strategy will work, but as I said, these there are specific use cases in which you should be declaring your variables as a single letter name with a single letter name. But in wide sense and in a broader coding standard approach, you should not be naming your variables as a single letter, uh, name. Now let's go back to the presentation. So what the description says, while single letter variables name like I, J or K are commonly used in loops, as I had highlighted that there are specific use cases where you can have a single letter variable names, but generally it is better to use more descriptive names for other variables to improve your code readability. I hope this point is also meaningful. This point is also clear to you, and I expect when you read or when you follow our episodes on this basic course of JavaScript, you adopt to these practices so that it adds value to your programming knowledge and it add values to your what I say coding practices. I and it is never never adds a value when you just read it. It adds a value in true sense when you implement it in your day-to-day life, while you work on projects, while you work on some test tasks. So always learn and implement the concepts, then and then you will step up as a programmer. Now let's see what's next. Okay. The next is avoid abbreviations unless widely understood. In general, we should avoid using abbreviations, which means the short forms, unless they are widely understood and accepted in the context of your code. Because when you abbreviate something, it becomes smaller in size, but sometimes it loses the clarity. So clarity is more important than the brevity. ये तो बहुत बड़ा word हो गया brevity, but that means the smallness or shortings. So rather than thinking about shortening your names, your variable names, you should be more focusing on making your names clearer. And another thing is camel case convention. As I had already highlighted, the general use case or general practice of naming variables in JavaScript includes the use of camel case, where the first word starts with a smaller case, and the letter word in the name has the first letter as the capital. As you can see in this example, the let company name where the C of the company of the word company is smaller and the N of the word name is capital. This naming convention is camel case, and in JavaScript generally people use or developers use camel case convention for naming their variables. So with this, we complete the common rules that we have to follow while naming our variables. Now let's quickly take a look at some good and bad variable names in terms of JavaScript programming. So here we tried just summarizing some examples for just highlighting what are the valid and invalid names. However, while I was explaining the code samples to you, I have already given you overview about what is supported, what is not supported, what is valid and what is invalid. Now let's quickly analyze this. The first valid name is let financial year equal to 2024, equal to 2024. Here the variable name is financial year, which is following the camel case convention, where it consists of only letters that is supported. This first invalid name is let 123 company equals to invalid. Can you tell why it is invalid? Let me tell you this. We have already highlighted a reason, because this variable name starts with a digit. The second valid name is again a company name equals to long switch. That means it is having like the letters only and with the camel case. The second invalid name is let company dash name equals to invalid. Here, I believe now you are clear why it is invalid, because it includes an hyphen. Because as we have gone through the rules, only the underscore and dollar sign is supported as a special character while naming your variables. Here it has the hyphens, therefore it is invalid. The third valid variable name is underscore company is active equals to true. Why this is valid? Because it starts with a underscore, with an underscore. As we have gone through the rules, underscore your variable names can start with only letters, underscore, or a dollar sign. Therefore, it is valid. The third invalid variable name is company space name equals to invalid. Because why this is invalid? Because we cannot have a space between the variable names, between the variable name. The fourth valid name is dollar company cost equals to 99.99. Why it is valid? Because a variable name can start with a dollar. Fourth invalid variable name is let if equals to invalid. Why it is invalid? Because it is using a reserved keyword named if as a variable name. Therefore, it is treated as invalid. The fifth valid variable name is let space cost is equal to 45. This is valid because it just has one word and it is on. It just includes letters. So that is valid. Why the fifth invalid name is invalid? Because it has an at the rate in its name. Company at the rate name. As we have seen, only underscore and dollar are supported as special characters, nothing else. Here we have at the rate symbol, therefore it is invalid. So I hope this gives you a good idea about the general rules that we have to follow while naming our variables. What are the valid and invalid names? And most important thing, you must have got the idea why it is really important to have a valid naming convention strategy implemented throughout your program for the better understanding, readability, and consistency in your JavaScript programs. In case we have added a value in your knowledge in terms of JavaScript programming with our episode, do let us know in the comment section. Subscribe now for more regular updates. Thank you. Thank you for watching.